Okay, so it took about a little over 4.5 years, but I finally got it. I got COVID, tested positive on Monday, and I'm pretty sure I knew where I got it. So the short version is I was stranded in the Atlanta airport for 3 days this weekend. Made it back made it back late Sunday night, almost Monday morning. And then, Monday morning I woke up with a sore throat and just kept feeling worse. I was supposed to go to Western Massachusetts to start work out there, and I figured just to be safe, I'd take a test and tested positive, and things just advanced from there. And so, I'm much better now. Woke up, I got a good night's sleep last night, and it's actually like the least unfortunate thing to happen to me in the last week. So, but I was working in Mississippi for 2 weeks, and then I was supposed to fly home on Friday out of Jackson. So Friday morning, there was no chill. So it's about an hour and 15-minute drive from Macomb, Mississippi to the airport in Jackson. So I just scrambled like a madman, threw everything together. Couldn't really check out of the hotel because their system was down. They just had a little handwritten note saying, drop your keys off, we'll figure it out once our computers are back on. So dropped off the key cards and jumped in the rental, drove up to Jackson. While I was on the road, I got the notification that my 9:18 flight was canceled, and went in. I stood in line for like an hour and went on the app spamming, book alternate flights, and every single time it would give me an error message, but I just kept doing it over and over again, getting the error message and restarting just because I had nothing better to do while I was standing in line. And apparently that did something, because by the time I finally did get to the gate agent, he said that they'd already rebooked me on the alternate flight that I kept trying to rebook and get an error on. So I was like, awesome. So it was a rebook for like a 10:40 flight. So really quick, I ran out, I went out, I paid for my short-term parking, drove around, returned to the rental car. All their computers were down, so all I did is I just parked it and threw the keys in the cup holder and went inside. My 10:40 flight got delayed until like 12:30. And it was a 7:50 flight that got delayed till 12:30 that they put me on. So that it did take off, and it landed in Atlanta. What would have been a 4.5-hour layover turned into a half-hour layover. So I sprinted to my next gate, only to find out just as I arrived that the flight's delayed. So I thought, oh, okay, so I got some breathing room. So I went to the restroom and sat down and waited, and got delayed. Flying Delta, by the way, which is probably not a surprise at this point, but at the time, I had a lot of confidence that I would make it home. But needless to say, by about 5:45 p.m., they canceled the flight. And of course, when we all wanted to know, okay, what do we do now? They said, go stand in line for the customer service desk. Well, the line for the customer service desk already had about 800 people in it. So it literally, if you've never been to the Hartsfield, Jackson, Atlanta airport, the concourses are like multiple football fields in length. And this ran almost the entire length of it. So I got in line and kept trying the same thing, kept trying to find alternate flights, book alternate flights. I was telling people around me that that's what I was doing, because we were all had that kind of refugee mentality, like we're all in this together. So we were all sharing notes. It worked for some of them, for most of them it didn't. It didn't work for me. I stood in line for 7.5 hours. Got pretty close to the customer service line. So after about 6 hours, getting close, and then two jokers started just kind of edging their way in and pretending like they'd been there for hours, and like idiots. But I was so delirious and so out of my mind with stress. I was I was just that close to snapping. Fortunately, they were cowards and didn't push it. But I get to the gate agent. She says, I can put you on a 9:55 a.m. flight tomorrow, Saturday. I was like, oh, that is amazing. I was so excited. Like, literally, like, every time one of us got news like that, the whole line would cheer, and clap. And so then I went to go try to find a hotel for the night. There was no hotels anywhere near the airport. So, like, I ended up passing on the hotel. I just spent the night there in the atrium of the airport. I slept on the linoleum right outside a USO office. And by slept, I mean like I laid on my carry-on, threw my jacket over my head, tried to like relax. I think I nodded off for about 20 minutes before a janitor woke me up with a floor polisher. So I got out of his way, and I had a book with me, a good book. So I read that for about an hour, and then I tried to get a little more sleep. I think I took about another 20 or 30 minute nap before everybody else started waking up and the whole airport started waking up. And I got up around 6, got some coffee, and went through security, found my gate, and waited. 9:55 flight. The pilot was there. He was like, hey, we're all here. The plane's here. We're here. Unfortunately, our flight attendants were supposed to land from Syracuse, and that flight got canceled. So we're trying to find 2 more flight attendants. But the good news is that everybody else is here. We just need to find 2 more flight attendants. And it was like, oh, okay. So about 12:45, after I went and got a chicken sandwich from Popeyes, I came back in to see that they'd canceled the flight. The flight was canceled, so didn't matter that we were all there. And so again, same deal. You just got to go to customer service. Well, in this concourse, you don't wait in a physical line. There's like a QR code on a big board out in front of the customer service. So you scan that with your phone, and it gives you a place in virtual line. My place in a virtual line was like 723. So I was like, okay, well, at least I didn't have to stand up. So I spent the whole day kind of pacing back and forth. I'd sit for a while. I'd read my book for a while. I also called the customer service hotline on my phone. I spent just like the entire day on Saturday just kind of alternately like sitting down, reading a book, listening to the hold music for Delta Airlines. And then when I start to go a little, need to like get restless. I had no sleep, so I was like delirious. I'd like wander around the airport, still on hold, still checking my place in this virtual line. So it was about probably like 7 something in the evening when, I never got through to anybody on the phone, but on my place in line ticked down to until it was about my time to go. And so I went back to the customer service desk. They let me wait for an agent, and that agent was like able to put me on the exact same flight, like the 9:55 Sunday morning. So like basically the exact same flight on Saturday morning. But I was like, hey, no problem. I'll take it. Thank you. I had the presence of mind on Saturday to not count on getting out that day. So I went ahead and I booked a hotel near the airport. A nice one. Kimpton. It was one of the only ones that had a room left. So once I get my boarding pass for Sunday morning, I like hang up on, Delta customer service. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go catch the hotel shuttle to go and get a shower and a good night's sleep. I'm like, I can't even see straight at this point. Like I stopped reading my book because I couldn't focus on the words. It felt like being drunk in all of like the negative ways with none of the positives. And so I go out to the area where you wait for the hotel shuttles. And so the first round of shuttles leaves, and I say, and so I'm sitting there, and there's like an MC. Like there's literally a guy who works for the airport who has an amplifier and a microphone, and he stands up on this like little dais there in the waiting area, and he starts like doing shtick, like, "Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Atlanta Hartsfield Airport Hotel Shuttle waiting area. I will be your host for the day. Any questions you might have, blah 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 blah." And I'm like, this guy's doing shtick. Anyway, so that was kind of amusing for about 5 minutes, and then some other dude comes over and asks him for the microphone. Some other guy who works at the airport asks him for the microphone and says, "Yeah, there's been an accident at the entrance to the airport, and there is a traffic jam to get in, and no ground transportation will be arriving for the foreseeable future. No shuttles, no taxis. So if you want to call a Lyft or an Uber, the Lyft and Uber waiting area is in the north economy lot, which Delta terminal is on the south side of the airport. So it's this just stampede of idiots, myself included, rushing to the north side of the airport through baggage claim. And if you've never been to Atlanta, you have no idea what that's like. So by the time I made it, by the time I got a Lyft, by the time I got away from the airport, by the time I got to the hotel, it was like after 9 p.m. After checking in to order dinner, I got a notification on my phone that said my 9:55 flight was already canceled. So I just didn't have the bandwidth to do anything about it. I said, that's a tomorrow problem. So I woke up early Sunday morning. I caught the hotel shuttle back to the airport, went back through security, went straight to the Delta customer service line. Fortunately, it was early in the morning, so there was only about 100 people ahead of me, so I made it through in about an hour or so. And this agent said that the earliest flight to Albany he could get me on was flying standby at like 4:58 in the afternoon. And I was like, you might as well tell me that I'm spending another night here. I have zero faith that I'm getting out tonight to Albany. How close can you get me? At this point, like, I've been texting my mom, I've been calling Aaron, and we've all been just brainstorming ways to try and get me out of there. There's no cars available to rent. They're all gone. Amtrak systems were just as badly snarled, so they were not doing any better. Like, I guess on a bus from Atlanta to Albany would have taken me like 2.5 days. And it wouldn't have been that much better than just languishing in the airport for 2.5 days trying to get on a flight. So I said, how close can you get me? I thought if they could get me to New York City or to Boston, eventually I could try and get on one of the Amtrak trains going to Albany. Just anything that would work. And he was like, I don't know, neither of those. He wasn't sure he could get me to New York City or Boston. I said, what about Hartford? Because Hartford's only about an hour and a half away from Albany. It's a small airport. There's no train from there, but I just needed to get close. I just needed to get out of Atlanta. So he's like, okay, yeah, there's a couple of flights leaving to Hartfield. So one was leaving at like 10:50 something that morning, and he said, I can get you on the standby list for that one, and I'll also book you confirmed seat on a flight leaving at like, I don't even remember what time it was. It was like leaving at 4:00. And so I was like, oh, great. So I got 2 shots at this. He's like, yeah, if they call you for standby, then we'll just give your seat on the second flight to somebody else. I was like, great. One by one, people get given the rows. They get voted off the island, and they get on the plane. My name was not called. So I thought, well, at least I have a backup plan. I went to my other gate because, it was going to start boarding in about half an hour. And I get there, and I didn't have a boarding pass for it. He basically just gave me a boarding pass for the standby list. So, and I checked in the app, and the app said seat will be assigned at the gate. So I went to the gate to ask for my boarding pass so I would know what zone I was in. And he tells me that my confirmation code didn't have anything under it. And so I go into the app and search for the confirmation code. I also cannot find my flight, anything. I can't even find it. It says it doesn't have any flights under that confirmation number. Like they've just deleted me from the system. So once again, I go to the customer service desk. I scan the QR code to get my place in line. This is like, now I'm like 600 something in line. So I go back I go and sit down near the gate again, just to like feel sorry for myself. And I just keep thinking, this doesn't make any sense. How I was checking the app, like it was good. I was good to go right up until now. What happened? So it occurs to me, I was like, I'm gonna go back to that original gate where I was waiting on standby. Maybe that Delta agent is still there. Maybe I can ask him if maybe he clicked something or something happened. So on my way back to that gate, I hear the same customer service desk where I just scanned the QR code announce that their system is crashed and everybody needs to like leave their place in line and just get in like a normal, just stand in line like normal. And so I was like 600 something, and now I'm just hearing this. So the line this had just happened. So the line would just started forming. So I hopped in there, man. I hopped right. So it was almost kind of like I jumped way ahead in line. It was very unfair. There was all these people who've been waiting for hours in that virtual line, and they were gone. Yeah, they just like me. They like wandered off, because that's the whole point. You get a virtual place in line, you don't have to stay there. Well, they wandered off. Well, they lost their place in line. So, sucks to be them. Well, sucks to be everybody, because so I stand there for about another hour as the line slowly moves forward, and then just when I'm about to kind of like round the thing, they come through with more QR codes. Said, okay, we're going to scan people in the order they're in this line. We're going back to the virtual line. So it's like, okay, so I scan it. Well, now I'm like number 43 in line. It's like, okay, well, that's not that bad. So again, I walk away. I go sit down. I wait for it to tick down till my number's almost up, and then I go back over to the customer service desk and ask, and then I hear them again saying, yeah, we're not doing the virtual line anymore. So we were doing virtual line, then we're not doing it. And we're doing virtual line, now we're not doing virtual line anymore. At this point, the line is now like all the way down the concourse. So I go again, stand in line and wait. And at this point, yeah, I don't even know what to do with myself. And just, I got lucky, because I'm standing in line for about another hour, and one of the gate agents, one of the Delta agents, comes into the line and is talking to this like family of 3 who are standing right in front of me in line, and is asking them questions. And I can't really hear what they're talking about, but like this, we're in this situation, like people start talking to someone who works for Delta, and then like everyone just kind of tries to eavesdrop because we're just desperate for information or a clue or just something. And so I was trying to kind of eavesdrop without being intrusive, so I didn't really catch much of it. I was paying really close attention. And so she was basically like talking to them about their situation and saying, okay, follow me. She's going to take them over to like the gate where I was originally supposed to leave from my confirmed flight. And she just made eye contact with me, and she just kind of like gives me the nod. So I was like, okay. So I followed them over to the gate, and so they get with them, and they're on the computer and are trying to help them out, and so they get them booked onto something, and then they go do their thing, and then I come up and I explain the whole situation, the whole story, and they're like, that's weird. Yeah, I was like, weird. Everything under my confirmation number just got disappeared. This is like 4 times I've been rebooked on a flight out of here, and it felt like it took an eternity. They were like, do you have an email confirmation that you were rebooked on the like the 2087 flight to Hartford? And I didn't have an email, but I did have a text message that I got, an update as to that it was departing, that it was delayed until 4:58. So I was like, I showed her the text message that Delta sent me that said, yes, I am, my flight, is now delayed, leaving at a gate B20 until 4:58. So that was as much proof as she needed. So she gets like a manager or a PSA. I don't know what PSA stands for, and I was too tired to ask. But a PSA comes, who's just another dude who works for Delta, I guess, who's got higher clearance or something. I don't know. And he goes, they're clacking away on the laptop and working on it. And she calls some gate, said, says something to him. And then she's like, hey, and she hands me a boarding pass to the exact same flight that I was supposed to be confirmed on. In fact, I actually think I was supposed to have a first class ticket because I had a first class ticket leaving Jackson. Well, obviously that didn't work out. And I think I was actually supposed to fly first class from Atlanta to Hartford. But predictably, I didn't fly first class. They stuck me in coach. But I ran down to the gate. I did get on a plane. I left Atlanta. I landed in Hartford, Connecticut, at like a little after 9 in the evening, and then I was able to like reserve a car for like $120 something. Like it's literally like price gouging out the wazoo. And then I drove an hour and a half to Albany. Got back here almost at like just before 11:30 at night. And just, yeah, and I really had no words, but yeah. And then I woke up Monday morning with a sore throat, tested positive for COVID. I've never gotten it before. It was no fun, but I called my doctor, and the nurse at the doctor's office said that, yeah, that if my symptoms, if my fever doesn't get too high, and then if, I have manageable symptoms, just weather it out at home. Since I'm under 50 and I don't have I'm not immune compromised, she was like, just treat it like you would the flu, and I did. Finally got a good night's sleep last night. Erin's sick. Erin's got it. She's been taking care of me for the last 3 days, so I can take care of her. Yeah, this was the worst traveling experience that I can imagine, except for maybe a plane crashing. Like literally, the only thing I can imagine worse than this would be as if I was on a plane that crashed. So grateful to be home, grateful for the hardworking folks at Delta Airlines for somehow managing to keep their sanity together to get me and everybody else on flights home. Grateful to the staff of the Atlanta, Jackson, or Hartfield, whatever, the Atlanta airport, for the most part, who were champions, who had positive attitudes and were, never didn't seem to let the insanity break them. And it was they kept good spirits. They were optimistic and positive, and it really did a lot to keep me and I'm sure everybody else from losing our minds. So not going to get on another plane for a very long time. Yeah, just grateful to be home.